Hi, and welcome to this business formation workshop. I want to thank the City of Boston for giving us the opportunity to present to you today. We're very hopeful that the knowledge you'll gain as part of this workshop will help to jumpstart the process of forming and founding new small businesses and communities throughout Boston. My name is Alex, and I'm a small business consultant with RevB, a business technical assistance firm based here in Boston. Our work is centered around assisting small business owners with every aspect of their operation, from founding their business to strategic planning to online and digital marketing. Before I started my work with RevB, I was a small business owner like you, and I have been lucky enough to be involved in founding several small businesses since 2016. Today, my hope is that by sharing our experience and research with you, we can set your businesses off to the right start and enable you to become successful entrepreneurs in the long term. So today, the first thing I want to do is introduce you to Ty Allen, a Boston-based entrepreneur whose company Shug Shug sells delicious tropical fruit pastries in the Boston area. I've been working with Ty for several months, advising her on her process of starting up her business. Ty's product is simple. She sells tarts, cakes, and pies that she bakes from scratch. But developing a process to get her pies from her kitchen and into the hands of her customers was not simple. Originally, Ty was planning on baking her pastries at her home. She didn't have too many customers, so her home kitchen was all she needed to produce her supply. But she ran into problems that face many businesses. How could she make sure that she was following the rules set by her landlord and her local government? How could she make sure she was complying with federal and state rules that regulate food businesses? Ty ended up needing to go through a permit process in order to get permission to operate her business. She needed a home occupation permit from her town to allow her to run her business from home. And she also needed to file for state and federal taxes and ensure that her business was registered with the state of Massachusetts. It wasn't an easy process for her to figure these things out, but if she hadn't, her business wouldn't have been able to operate at all. Today, Shug Shug is still a startup, and Ty is still working hard to grow her business and customer base. But the progress she has made over the past year has been inspiring, and her hard work has started to pay off. Today, I'll share with you the knowledge you need to get your state filings, your licenses, and your business permits in order so your business can run smoothly and safely. Very simply, your product is something that you can produce or provide that someone else might be willing to pay for. Whether an object or a service or an idea, every business has a product, and every product can be converted into a business. But how does that happen? That a product can magically be transformed into a business? Well, that is the second component that a business requires, the process. Your business process is simply the method you use for connecting your product to your customers. One of the most important responsibilities that an entrepreneur has is to make sure you have filed the correct information with the right organizations and that you're compliant with the legal requirements for doing business. This is especially important because businesses in different industries will need different licenses and permits, depending on the requirements of their business. If you're a childcare center, you'll have different needs than a restaurant. First, we'll start with the fundamentals of forming your business that will apply to all businesses, regardless of industry. Our first section will focus on state filing, a critical step in the process of forming a business. State filing is a process that all businesses must go through in order to notify the government of their existence. Just like you need a birth certificate to file with the government when a new baby is born, a new business needs to file information with the government when it is created. And there are some good reasons for this. The government needs to know how much tax to assess to a business. They also need to know what kinds of businesses exist in their jurisdiction so that they can make sure that all businesses are operating legally. And they need to know what kind of business you are so that in the case of legal trouble, they know who to contact and how to handle conflict. We'll start by talking about tax documents for the federal and state government. Then we'll discuss the certificate of organization, which is sometimes called the Articles of Incorporation. And finally, we'll get into what a DBA certificate is and why you should get one. So the first step in filing your business with the government is by applying for and obtaining a federal tax ID called an EIN. An EIN, which stands for Employer Identification Number, is like a social security number for businesses. It's the number that the government uses to connect information to your business, especially your taxes. You can file for a federal EIN tax ID online with the IRS. One big note here, there are scammers online who take advantage of business owners that are confused about how to file their business with the government. You should know there is no fee to apply for a federal tax ID. Do not pay to file an EIN with the IRS. If a website online is asking you for an application fee in order to file an EIN, then you're on the wrong website. Go directly to the IRS and the websites that they recommend for EINs. In order to get an EIN, you'll need a social security number and an address for your business. Don't worry if your business doesn't yet have a physical business location. The address that the IRS requires on your application is a mailing address. It's there so that you can be contacted, not to check where you're doing business. That will come later. The second step is also to file a state tax certification. This is done through Mass Tax Connect, an online service of the state of Massachusetts. If you don't file with Mass Tax Connect, you won't be able to pay your legally mandated taxes in full, which will lead to serious legal trouble in the future. Just like with the federal tax ID, the Massachusetts state's tax certification has a free online registration system. Do not pay to file your Massachusetts tax status. All you'll need to do is to provide a social security number and a business address. But why should you worry about federal and state tax IDs? Well, in almost all states, businesses are required to pay taxes on their income. If you only file for a federal EIN, you won't be paying your state taxes. And this can lead to all kinds of negative outcomes, like being audited by state tax authorities or becoming ineligible for certain forms of government assistance. The bottom line is that you must file both a federal and a state tax level ID, and make sure you're paying the taxes you owe every year. The third step in filing your business legally is to file a certificate of organization. If the federal tax ID is like a business's social security number, then the certificate of organization is the business's birth certificate. Many of you may have heard of articles of incorporation before. That's also a correct term for this. But the reason I'm using the phrase certificate of organization is because the certificate of organization is the form that businesses will use when they file as an LLC or a limited liability corporation. And that's the most common type of business type for small businesses and cooperative businesses. If you're trying to form a different kind of organization, like an S corporation or a nonprofit, you'll need to file a different kind of form, but the process is similar. In order to file for a certificate of organization, you'll need to apply online with the Massachusetts Secretary of State's office. Before filing for your certificate of organization, make sure you've already received your federal tax ID or EIN. Without it, you won't be able to complete the application and receive a proper certificate of organization. You'll also need to have a social security number and a business mailing address. Finally, there is one other kind of certificate that you should acquire before starting up your operations. This is called a business certificate or a doing business as certificate. The business certificate allows you to do business using the name of your business instead of doing it in your name yourself. This means that you can write checks and open a bank account in the name of your business instead of in your name. Most importantly, business certificates are legally required by most towns and cities in Massachusetts. This is because filing a business certificate helps towns and customers to identify the owner of a business in case of legal conflict. Without a business certificate, your business is not in compliance with local commerce regulations, and you will be fined for not filing one. I recommend filing for a business certificate as soon as you can, before you have any customers. In order to receive a business certificate, you must file with your local town or city, usually on their website. The business certificate application must be witnessed by a notary public. You can't just send it in with your name on it. And many towns will charge a fee for the business certificate, and that fee is typically about $65. Now, many businesses get confused about business certificates and certificates of organization. They're different. But you might ask, do I need a certificate of organization or a business certificate? If I have a business certificate already, do I need to file for a certificate of organization? So let me just end the confusion right here. We strongly recommend that you file both a certificate of organization with the state and a business certificate with your city or county. That way, you avoid any other confusion. Get both of them. Okay, so we've completed section 1 on state filing. Our next section is licensure. This is different than state filing. Licensure isn't just notifying the government of your business's existence. Instead, licensure makes sure that you are conducting your business in a legal way. There are all kinds of things that businesses are not allowed to do, such as pay their workers less than minimum wage or serve food without the proper health and safety precautions. When you get your business licensed, you are demonstrating both to the government and to your customers that you are fully compliant with the laws of doing business. So I'm going to talk about 4 major kinds of licenses and permits today. Some of them are required for all businesses, and some are only needed for specific industries, but all of them are very important. So the first kind of license that I'm going to be talking about today may not be necessary for every business, but it will be extremely important for many businesses. Zoning and land use permits are permits that are issued by local governments to regulate construction in buildings. There's a good reason for this. Commercial construction and contracting is complicated stuff. Everyone involved will have to remain safe and secure. But even after a construction is over, it's important to remain compliant with the local rules around construction and zoning. So in Massachusetts, the process of zoning and land use permitting can be very complex. So what kinds of construction work will need to be covered by a zoning permit? Well, you don't need a permit to install a cash register or to place a sofa in the back office, but you will need one if you have any sort of construction going on that affects the type of building your business is located in. Each different construction project will need to be permitted separately. Zoning permits will be filed online with your local city government or your county government in a few cases. Online, there is a short form for minor projects and a long form for major construction projects and installations. Each project and business will be different, so you'll need to consult your local government for guidance on which application you'll need to submit. Now, a lot of people get super bogged down in the technicalities surrounding zoning and permitting like this. It's tough, it's complicated, but we want to make sure you know that it is critical to be paying attention to zoning and land use permits. One very common mistake that business owners make is signing a lease for commercial property when they haven't verified the zoning status. Without checking, you can end up spinning your wheels and wasting a lot of time and money. When you sign the commercial lease, no alarm bell rings saying that the location is not properly zoned for your business. But then when you're trying to construct a kitchen for your restaurant or change the floor layout to be more conducive for a childcare business, for example, suddenly your construction contractors tell you they won't be able to complete the job, setting you back by months. So what is the solution? The solution is that you should always check your building zoning and land use permits before making any commitments to a lease. Always pay attention to the zoning regulations of your building. In addition to zoning and land use permits, there's also building permits. Building permits are different than zoning permits. Zoning permits grant you permission to change the type and the function of a building or a portion of a building. Building permits allow you to actually make those changes physically. So this covers any internal and external construction at the business location. In order to receive a building permit, you'll need to file online with the city's Inspectional Services Division. And before filing, you'll need to have your construction plan and project specifications straightened out beforehand. Finally, we have an assortment of operational permits that are important for different businesses from different industries. So first, there are health permits, and these are issued by a city government's Inspectional Services Division to businesses in specific industries, such as food service, restaurants, and health businesses like surgical clinics or dental offices. So look up your local government's requirements for your business to see if you need a health permit. There's also fire prevention. This is required for all businesses, and it's filed with the local fire department. The fire prevention permit process makes sure that all businesses are following local rules regarding fire prevention and safety. And finally, there are also specific licenses for different types of businesses. One important license that I want to point out today is the Child Care Program license. This license is required for businesses that provide early childhood education and childcare services. It ensures that all childcares are operated in an environment safe for children, operated by people who have the proper training to care for a group of children. Those are not all of the licenses and permits that you may need to obtain for your business, but I want to give you a general overview of the main types that will likely be required. Now that we've completed the section on licensure, we can move on to the next section of our workshop. This section is on business planning, and in it, I'm going to cover some topics that business owners will have to worry about when they're getting ready to open their business and begin receiving customers. When new entrepreneurs begin investigating the process of starting up their business, there are a few critical steps that they'll need to take. The way I think about all of these business processes is as a conversation. I'm going to tell you the questions about your business that you should be able to answer as an entrepreneur, and I'll explain the best ways to answer them. We'll start by defining and discussing a business plan. What is a business plan, and what information should you try to convey in one? Perhaps more importantly, how should you be thinking about the details of your business while you're preparing this plan? So how do we talk about our product when we're writing a business plan or pitching our idea to lenders and investors? In any business plan, we'll need to know a few basic things. First, what is your product? Is it an item? Is it a service, software, or maybe it's an idea? And where does it come from? Is it produced in a factory overseas? Maybe the product is made by hand at home. A product might not even need to be made per se, because a service is an activity that needs to be repeated in order to receive payment. Maybe your product isn't produced, but provided. And these questions will all need to be answered in your business plan. What about your process? What kinds of questions should you answer when planning your process? If your process is the way that you connect your products to your customers, then who are your customers? Where are they located? Are they your neighbors, or can they be located miles away? And how many miles? What do they like? I mean, if I sell hamburgers, do they want cheese on their burger, pickles? And how much are they able to pay? Can they afford to shell out $30 for an extra fancy burger? Or would they prefer a standard $5 burger? What about the way that customers receive your product? Do you deliver, or will they pick it up? Do you sell online, or do they need to call you to place an order? And finally, how do they even find out about your product in the first place? Are you going to run commercials on TV or post on social media? Do you rely on your customers to recommend you to other people? Or do you think you can drum up support all on your own? How do you promote your product? So I want to talk through a couple of examples of putting together a product and a process. Different industries sell different products, and they require different processes for connecting to customers. If I sell tacos, I probably produce those tacos in a commercial kitchen. Hopefully, they're not manufactured in a factory overseas. And what's the process of connecting my tacos to taco eaters? Well, maybe at my taco restaurant, customers can walk in and order at the counter. I might also offer pickup and delivery, maybe through a delivery app like DoorDash. And I notify customers that my tacos are available by putting a poster in the window and by posting ads on social media. What about a different industry, like consumer goods? I can't produce footballs, for example, in the same kitchen where I produce my tacos. My footballs are manufactured overseas, and I import them to sell them. But it's too expensive for me to operate a brick and mortar store just to sell footballs. Instead, I sell them online and have them delivered to customers through a shipping carrier. But similarly to my taco shop, I advertise them online and on social media. What about a business that doesn't sell a physical product at all? If I want to sell a mobile app, then the app will have to be developed by me or by someone willing to develop it for me. And I have to sell it on an app store. Customers will download it onto their phones directly. You can't download a taco. And I promote the app online as well. Finally, with a service product, the service must be repeated in order to be sold. So instead of manufacturing it, we provide it. If I'm a dentist, I perform dental services for my patients. They make appointments with me to receive the service rather than ordering or paying cash at a counter. They also need to be physically present for service to be provided. I can't provide dental service over the phone, and I can't ship dental service through UPS. Identifying the different elements of your process like this, it might seem tedious or repetitive, but it's essential to know in detail the full life cycle of your product, from production to payment to delivery. So we've talked about business planning and the practical activities that you'll need to iron out in order to start your business. But one element that was missing from this last section is money. Where does the money come into your business? How much money will there be? And will it be enough to continue operating? All of these issues are wrapped up in your revenue model. So how do we convert a product and a business process into a profit? Well, how does the money you spend producing your product get converted into more money, your profit? A revenue model explains how you will turn a profit, the way that you will set up your business so that you can charge your customers enough to cover all your costs and leave money left over. So how do we construct and talk about a revenue model? The answer to that question, how do we plan out our revenue model, has 4 steps. The first step is to identify a product. I have a product or a service that people are willing to pay me for. Without a product, there's no business. But why are people willing to pay you for that product? Well, your product, it has value because it does something for someone else that makes it desirable. So for example, tacos can be eaten, but they're different than other kinds of food, and they're not essential. There's no reason why someone would need a taco. They just need food. But someone can choose tacos. They can choose and be chosen by customers because they're desired. The value of your product can be spoken like this. People will pay me because my product helps them to do something. So how much value does your product have? Different products are valued differently by different people, but the overall value that they agree on is called the price, and that's where we get prices. Therefore, we can say that because of the value that a product gives to a customer, that customer is willing to pay the price. But simply labeling a product with a price does not make that product worth anything either. There must also be payment. It used to be that payment was a simple transaction. A shop owner would hand a product over to their customer and they would receive a bit of cash in return. But nowadays, there are many choices that people must make when making payments: cash or card, debit or credit. And what about your business model specifically? Does it make more sense for someone to pay you the full price now? Or should you break the payments up into installments like you would for a car or a house? When does the customer pay you? When they receive the product? When you ship it? Or do they pay you to reserve it and you deliver it later? These are all questions that you must know the answers to. So let's run through this series of decisions with an example. Let's say that I own a flower shop and my product is fresh local flowers. Once the process of growing and harvesting and packaging my flowers is complete, I still need to sell the flowers to my customers. And what is the value of flowers? Why do people pay for flowers? There are flowers outside right now, free of charge. You can pick them yourself. What is different about these flowers that I sell at my shop? Well, I'll tell you, these flowers have value because people like to give them as gifts. And they're not just any flowers. A fistful of wild flowers stolen from the park, it might be nice, but they're likely to be covered in dirt and insects, and they don't come in nice packaging like the flowers from my shop. Not only that, but the flowers I sell are locally grown, freshly picked, and customers have a selection of several different species and colors. The value of my flowers is in my service. It's what distinguishes these flowers from dandelions in your yard. Because of that value that I provide, my customers are willing to pay, let's say, $3 per flower. That's a lot for one flower that you could have picked yourself, but it's the price people are willing to pay. And how do I receive my payments? Well, my customers pay me in cash for my flowers when they buy them in the shop. But maybe I don't only take payment like that. Maybe I'm a clever florist who wants to make sure my customers keep coming back every month to buy more flowers. Maybe I offer a subscription service so my customers can pay a monthly fee online and I'll deliver them flowers every month. So in this case, I accept payment in cash in my store, and I accept these electronic subscription fees, increasing my revenue streams and making my business more profitable. So we've run through the business plan and the revenue model, but we need to be realistic as well. Not every business survives forever. We all know of businesses that have gone bankrupt, even businesses that we loved. When we're figuring out your revenue model, we also recommend making an attempt to show your financial feasibility. When we ask about financial feasibility, what we're really asking is your business economically possible and attractive? A business that is economically possible or financially feasible is self-sufficient and sustainable, able to make a profit, at least not run out of money entirely, without needing additional infusions of cash like a loan or a grant. And what makes something economically attractive? We may as well ask, attractive to whom? In this case, we mean attractive to people who will do business with you. That could be business partners, investors, banks who want to offer you a loan, and organizations willing to give you a grant. If your business is attractive to those people, it's because the business is showing that it can turn a profit. In order to understand financial feasibility, you must understand profit. When money flows into your business because customers are paying for products, that's not profit, that's revenue. Revenue flows into your business, and then you subtract from that the costs of producing your product, like labor, equipment, materials, that kind of thing. The money that's left over after you subtract your costs is your profit. But we can think about this in reverse as well. If you add up the total amount of your costs and then add on to that an additional amount of profit that you want, the total amount you're charging is your unit price. If you price your items like this, then you're guaranteed to make a profit, right? Right, but only if there are customers willing to pay that price. And this is just the price for one product. What happens when we look at all of the products that you sell, all of the revenue, and all of the costs together? Well, let's do that. When you're evaluating your financial feasibility, keep in mind that you have to land in what I call the small business sweet spot. So here we have revenue on the left, starts at 0, and then theoretically, revenue is unlimited. Theoretically, it could go on forever, but it won't. As our revenue increases, we hit our first limit, the cost limit down here on the bottom. The cost limit is this bottom red line. If your revenue is less than your cost limit, that means you aren't bringing in enough money to pay for your costs, and your business is losing money. Your revenues must be above the cost limit in order to have financial feasibility. Above the cost limit is our second limit, the capacity limit. The capacity limit stops your revenue from growing any farther. So why is that? Well, let's say that I manufacture cars and I sell those cars. Let's say that I manufacture cars and then I can only manufacture 10 cars per year. My goal every year is to sell all 10 of those cars at a price that is higher than my cost. But what if I have 100 people who want to buy my cars? Will I earn revenue from 100 customers? Well, no, because my capacity is limited. I can still only sell 10 cars, even if I have 100 or 1,000,000 potential customers. For this reason, your revenue will always be limited by your capacity. So how can you be financially feasible? Well, as long as you take more revenue than you spend in expenses, you can turn a profit. And if you exist inside of this green box, this small business sweet spot, where the business is profitable and you, the business owner, can earn a sustainable income from that profit, then you have what we call financial feasibility for now. Long-term financial feasibility, what we might call financial sustainability, will depend on your ability to use the profits your business earns to grow even further and to increase your profits over time. This brings me to the final subject in the business planning section, because even if you have an excellent business plan, a functional revenue model, and you've determined that your business is financially feasible, you still don't have everything that you need to begin. Your business plan is a seed, but you need soil to start growing. The soil that all new businesses need is startup financing. This is the money that you need to begin operating your business. All businesses require money upfront in order to begin operations. So there is no such thing as a zero risk business where the owner doesn't need to put up anything in order to begin. That doesn't exist. So where do we get the money to start a business? Well, there are 3 traditional routes: your personal savings, your private loans, and grants. Each of these options represents a trade-off. If you use your personal savings to start a business, then you won't need to repay that money to a bank, but you won't be able to use that savings for something else, like buying a house or a car. If you get a bank loan, then you aren't limited by the amount of money that you have in your savings account, but you'll have to pay the bank back over time using your profits. Grants might not need to be repaid, but grant money is limited and it's hard to find. And usually it's pretty hard to get. It's pretty competitive. It's a rare business that can collect all of its startup funding from winning grant money. So why do I have these icons of different tools at the bottom of this slide? Well, I want to show you that you have multiple tools in your toolbox. You may not need to use the wrench if you can make the hammer and the screwdriver work for you, but it's important to know that the wrench is there if you need it. So how do you use your startup financing? What expenses do entrepreneurs usually use this for? Well, there are three main categories. First, there are initial costs, the things you need to get a business up and running and ready to begin operation. Many businesses also end up using money from loans or grants to fund their first few months of operation. It's common knowledge that many small businesses won't make a profit for the first few months or even years of operation. In that case, you might use some of your startup financing to fund operations while you're working towards profitability. And finally, there is property and equipment. Maybe you need to purchase a big machine or a vehicle in order to get started, like a new towing company will need to buy a new tow truck. Or maybe you have a business that needs to scale up in order to become more profitable. In this case, loans and grants can help to pay for acquiring bigger and better equipment that will make your business stronger. Each business is different, and each will need to use its startup financing differently. So our previous section, the business planning section, what we just had here, was primarily about learning about the questions you'll need to answer as a business owner and the kinds of answers that you should be looking for as you get started. Finally, we'll discuss some important business systems that all entrepreneurs will need to establish before their businesses can operate properly. And I'll call this section setting up shop. Okay, so in this section, we're going to cover four main topics: business insurance, business banking, business bookkeeping, and human resources. So this might not sound very interesting, but having a strong and robust system for managing your business, managing the money, the people, and the products that make up your business operations, that will make your business resilient and more likely to achieve long-term success. We'll begin with insurance. Just like people need health insurance, car insurance, and home insurance to protect themselves and their property, businesses need insurance to protect their people and property. There are many kinds of business insurance. First, we have general liability insurance. Even if you don't need any other kind of insurance, be sure to get general liability coverage. This protects your business from unforeseen accidents and incidents, legal conflict, and mistakes. If you forget to de-ice the sidewalk in front of your business and a customer falls and breaks their leg, well, general liability insurance will help you to cover their medical bills. But general liability coverage doesn't protect you from everything. Some businesses might need business income insurance, which protects your business from financial losses if a key piece of property or equipment is damaged. For example, if a fire damages the storefront of your gift shop and you're unable to open until the damage is repaired, business income insurance might help to protect your business from going bankrupt while you're unable to take customers. This kind of insurance makes sense for certain businesses that have a higher risk profile than others, like restaurants or businesses that rely on a single machine or piece of equipment to operate. Service businesses, like a dentist office or a chiropractor, they might need professional liability insurance, which protects your business in the case that services are performed incorrectly. So if you're a dentist and you pull out the wrong tooth, well, your professional liability insurance policy, it probably won't cover that, but it might cover situations where a customer sues you for negligence or misrepresentation. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, there may be expensive legal fees that you need to pay, and that insurance might help you to cover. Finally, businesses with lots of important equipment and property should also consider commercial property insurance to protect the business from damage or theft of that property. So how do you find good insurance? How do you know if you're getting a good price for your insurance policy? Well, there are 4 tips that we recommend people follow when seeking out insurance. First, assess your risks. What kinds of accidents or liability could occur that you may be unable to handle. Second, find an insurance agent that can help to advise you on which policies you might need and which policies will work best for you. Thirdly, choose a policy that fits your budget and your requirements. And keep in mind that while insurance can be expensive, legal fees or property damage will be much more expensive. Finally, reassess your needs every year. Maybe you purchased new property this year that isn't covered under your previous policy. Update those policies. As your business grows, your insurance will grow with it. Our next topic is business banking. Nearly everyone has a personal bank account, but it's important to set up separate banking for your business to make the process of doing taxes, paying employees, and handling invoices as clean as possible. A business bank account can be quite similar to a personal bank account. It might be a checking account or a savings account or a credit account. It probably comes with a card, and it definitely allows you to send and receive payment for your product. Businesses use their business bank accounts to pay for business expenses, but a business bank account will also record your transactions and make sure that you're staying legally compliant in the way that you're handling other people's money. Different types of accounts are used for different things. A business checking account might be similar to a personal checking account in that it allows you to write checks and transfer money between accounts. Business credit accounts might be similar to personal credit accounts, but perhaps with larger credit limits. A business line of credit can be used to pay for business expenses on a credit account. So each of these accounts are different tools that can be used for different things. But the most important thing to remember is to use these accounts to separate your business transactions from your personal transactions. So what is required for small business owners to access business banking? Well, you will need your federal tax ID and your certificate of organization. These documents are important for banks to verify your business status and to evaluate your credit limit. You'll also need to have obtained the business operation license appropriate for your operation, as well as any contracts of ownership that you have that govern the ownership of your business. If you have business partners, then having a well-defined agreement about profit sharing, responsibilities, and liabilities for your business is a critical step to access many business resources. When selecting a business banking account, it's important to make sure that the bank you choose is one that provides the exact services that you need. So there are two general types of banks for businesses. Traditional banks are classic choices for businesses with lots of transactions. There are national level traditional banks like Chase and Bank of America, but there are also good regional options here in Massachusetts like Eastern Bank and Berkshire Bank, which were closely involved in the PPP loan program during COVID-19. On the other hand, there are online banks for businesses, and they have become more popular recently, and they include options such as Blue Vine, Mercury, and Novo. So these banks offer a different type of service. They don't have a physical bank branch office for you to visit, but their online service is likely able to perform a lot of the same functions. In addition, some online banks tend to have more favorable terms for account holders, such as lower transaction fees or even promotional programs that allow for a zero payment introductory period. Capital One is a hybrid option. It's somewhere between a traditional bank and an online bank, which performs much of the same functions. Like online banks, Capital One doesn't have any physical branch offices, but they do provide ATMs and in-person facilities. Here in Boston, we have several Capital One cafes where account holders can get assistance with their banking information. Business banking is critical for you to manage the movement of money in and out of your business. But simply relying on a bank's online interface to watch your account activity is typically not good enough for businesses that need detailed financial information to pay their taxes, manage payroll, and make well-informed strategic decisions. In addition to a business bank account, you also need to manage your business's bookkeeping. If you have a business bank account, most banks allow you to connect your account information directly to online accounting and bookkeeping software. The account activity information that your bank records is important to keep track of, but it's also difficult to use and understand without using some tools to interpret the meaning of that financial information. Business bookkeeping software can make this process much simpler. Whether you choose to handle your banking business accounting with online software, or by hiring a private accountant, or by managing the information manually on your own, your bookkeeping process should be doing certain things for your business. I'm going to focus on the ways that bookkeeping software can assist businesses simply because online services for business accounting tend to be the easiest to use and the most affordable option for small business owners. Your business bookkeeping software should automatically record your transactions and categorize those transactions. By doing this, your software should also be able to generate accounting statements like a balance sheet and an income statement for your business. These are the most important financial statements for businesses doing strategic analysis on their finances. They're also the most important for analyzing things like payroll, waste, and taxes. Finally, really high quality software will help you to monitor your growth and manage your budget more effectively by indicating areas of the budget that are over or underused and showing the growth in your revenues, profits, and expenses over the long term. So I should say that I'm not sponsored by QuickBooks or any other software company. However, it is a fact that QuickBooks online accounting software, it's the most popular currently available for small business owners, and many people would argue that it is the best. But there are alternative services such as FreshBooks and Xero, which perform the same function as QuickBooks. When you're exploring these different options for business bookkeeping, keep in mind a couple of factors. First, do they connect with your other online services like your online bank account or your POS system? Secondly, do they make sense for the price? Many of these services offer different subscription levels. Can you afford the top level, the full service suite? Or is it a good idea to stick with the free or lower price subscription while your business is small? Keep these questions in mind when exploring business bookkeeping. The last item on my agenda today is human resources. Many people have a preconception about human resources as being boring or tedious, and it can be, especially for organizations that lack a deliberate approach to employee and people management. Regardless of how you feel about human resources, it is a critical area of entrepreneurship that small business owners must engage with. For our last section today, we'll walk through some of the basics of hiring and managing the employees that your business will need to be successful. Unless your business is a true one-man show, right? A true sole proprietorship where only you and your labor is necessary. Eventually, your business will need to bring in new employees to help you grow your capacity and increase your revenues. So hiring new people is one of the main strategies that small businesses use to grow. But how does a business go about hiring new workers? Well, there are several steps. First, ensure that you have registered your business with state labor regulators. So who are they? In Massachusetts, this will be the State Department of Revenue, where you register as an employer, and later where you register each of your employees. In addition, you must register your business with the Department of Unemployment Assistance, where you sign up for unemployment insurance. You must be covered by unemployment insurance by law. The second step is to sign up workers' compensation insurance. This insurance policy will cover you in the event that one of your future employees needs to claim workers' compensation for damages sustained on the job. Thirdly, you'll need to verify each of your new employees' relevant paperwork. This includes Form I-9, which verifies their citizenship or their work authorization, and also Form W-4, which determines how much federal income tax will be withheld from each paycheck. Finally, make sure that you're withholding all of the necessary payroll taxes from employee paychecks, including state income tax, Social Security, and Medicare. So recently, a lot of small businesses have been struggling to find the staff they need as a result of a so-called worker shortage in the United States. And a lot of that has to do with the unwillingness or the inability of many small businesses to increase their pay for workers. Large corporations like Walmart or Amazon and Target, they haven't faced the same limitations in pay. And so they've been able to attract more workers away from small business employers. The situation of each small business is different, and each small business owner will have to make individual determinations about worker pay to impact their hiring success. However, there are a few guidelines that employers should focus on regardless of the overall state of the economy. So when recruiting new employees, be sure to have a clear job title. Many employees are seeking new employment online. And the job title that they're searching for online will greatly influence the likelihood that they will even discover your job posting in the first place. You also need to clearly outline the responsibilities of a position. What tasks will the employee actually need to complete? As businesses expand and grow their relationships with their employees, it may be possible to scale up the responsibilities of individual recruits, but expressing a clear and comprehensive list for your job posting is critical to being transparent and welcoming of new hires. In addition to the responsibilities of a job, there may be skills that you want your employees to have. Do they need to speak multiple languages? Would it be better if they have previous experience in a similar role? And how much experience should they have? One thing to keep in mind is that great employees can often rise to the challenge of an unfamiliar job. Just because someone lacks specific experience in a particular task doesn't mean that they'll be unable to succeed in your position. Finally, and most importantly, with fierce competition for good employees, it is imperative that you make a strong case for why employees should want to choose to work with you. It may be that employees are entertaining multiple job offers when they come to you. What makes your company attractive to workers trying to decide between multiple positions? If you can't offer them as much payment as your competitors, well, are there benefits to working for you beyond the paycheck? Most employees also value a healthy and pleasant work environment. Is your business a happy and appealing workplace for new hires? So even if you have a well-written job description, getting enough prospective hires to view your job posting is also a challenge. There are multiple ways of promoting your business promoting your job posting online. One of the most important tools is online job boards like Indeed and Glassdoor. These platforms can be useful in connecting with hundreds or even thousands of potential employees. But many small businesses struggle to get noticed on these large platforms when they're competing with large corporations like Starbucks or Walmart. And that's why it's also important to promote your job openings so that you can stand out. One way is by competing in a pool of employers that's smaller and more specific to your local area. Local employment programs, schools, and nonprofits might offer job boards online, where you can also appeal to employees searching for work on the internet. Most importantly, reach out through your personal network to find employees who may be connected to people you know and trust. Can someone recommend a friend of theirs, maybe a family member or a former coworker who has the qualifications you're looking for? Finally, don't forget the value of posting a help wanted sign in your window. You may be surprised how many people you can find just with this tactic. Each business will have different needs from their employees and therefore different tools necessary for managing those workers. There are many requirements for hiring and managing employees, including the way you manage their pay, their benefits, their time off, hiring, firing, and filing relevant paperwork with the government. While no single tool can handle all of these functions for you, online HR management software can help to automate the process. There are lots of companies that offer different software packages for different purposes. 3 of the most popular are Gusto, Paychex, and Rippling, which provide assistance with employee onboarding and training, pay, time off, and filing. Any small business that hires employees should investigate these services and invest in tools that can make your life easier as a small business owner. So we've come to the end of our workshop today. And let me reopen the presentation slide here. We've come to the end of our workshop today. I really want to thank you for joining me today. It's really been a pleasure to be speaking with you all today. Thanks so much for staying until the end. We at RevB hope that this information can be helpful for you in establishing your new businesses. The process of founding and operating a business is an arduous and complicated journey, but also remember that small businesses form a fundamental part of our communities and broader society. The work that small business owners and entrepreneurs do impacts everyone around us, and small businesses perform services that none of us could go without. While the work may be challenging and unpredictable, it is also humbling and noble and sometimes glorious. I wish each of you the best of luck. Once again, my name was Alex, and I'm a consultant with RevB. If you want to look on your screen right now, RevB is a small business consulting firm here in Boston. Please connect with us online on our Instagram, our Twitter, or our LinkedIn accounts. And you can also send us an email at hello@revb.co. to get in touch with us and see how we can begin to help you today. Thanks so much for listening and have a wonderful day.